Please welcome Spencer Fung, Group Chief Executive Officer, Li & Fung.
Hello, good morning. How's everyone doing? First of all, I want to thank WWD for inviting me to this very exciting event. It's actually my first time, and I had a lot of fun yesterday, especially at dinner. It was actually a lot of fun. So today, I would like to talk to you about a topic that is very dear to my heart, very dear to what our company is doing, and it's called the supply chain of the future. But I don't want you to see this as a Li & Fung presentation, because I believe that everyone is or has to go through pretty much a similar path. As I go along, you can draw a lot of parallels to what you're doing or what you're about to do, because it's actually relevant for everybody. I just want to make sure, this is the clicker, right? Okay. So this is my favorite slide for the last year. And I always want to start with this slide, because I've been told that when you give a presentation, people forget everything you say within 7 days. So just have one thing that you want them to remember. So this is it. If you forget everything, this is the only slide I want you to remember. Basically, as we embark of creating the supply chain of the future, we're looking at the whole competitive environment in our space and also outside our space. In fact, most competitors that disrupt incumbents are the ones that are outside people's space, like Kodak being disrupted by digital camera, Blockbuster being disrupted by Netflix, and so on and so on. So we are definitely the turtle that is not moving very fast. We're a big company that is a slow-moving company. We're trying to put a rocket grenade on the turtle and to speed up. But meanwhile, there are lots of smaller, faster, different players, especially in the tech space, that's coming up. Most of these companies, we don't even know who they are. So these are the companies where I call them rabbits. So as I go about doing my business every day, I'm competing with a lot of people that I know from the past, right? These are actually a lot of them are in this room. We've been in the same industry for many years, right? These are the people that we all grew up together. We're all moving at similar pace. But as I try to convert the company into a newer company to create the supply chain of the future, I'm always trying to look a little outside to see, okay, who are my other competitors or future competitors? So I think this is something that I think all of us has to face, right? Amazon, 20 years ago, everybody dismissed them. Alibaba, everybody dismissed them. Look where they are at today. So who are the next Amazons and Alibabas of our industry, of your respective competitive space? This is something that you have to think about. And this theme will run throughout my presentation. So a little bit about myself. I'm from Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong. I went to school there and the US, therefore a little bit of the American accent. I was actually in Boston for more than 10 years, and I support the Patriots. I apologize for that. I apologize. Then I went to Silicon Valley, started my own business, and became an entrepreneur, and then I went back to Hong Kong. So today I work under the Fung Group, and I run a part of the Fung Group, which is called Li & Fung. The Fung Group has been around for 112 years, and I'm the 4th generation. It was actually started by my great-grandfather. I take care of the top 2 bubbles, the trading and logistics. So trading is our sourcing business. Logistics is our warehousing business in Asia, where we run about 230 warehouses, bringing foreign brands. A lot of apparel and footwear brand actually are our customers, moving goods into Asia. Then we have a distribution arm, a retailing arm, we have a research arm, a leadership development foundation, and also a private equity arm. So this is the Fung Group today. Now, what I do is actually global sourcing. So we connect thousands of retailers and brands with more than 10,000 factories in over 50 countries. So we have always employed a diversified sourcing network. And today, of course, the hottest topic is the trade war. In a sense, we have been preparing for the trade war for the last 40 years, because we have always maintained this diversified sourcing base. We are in over 50 countries. So, right now with what's happening with the trade war, it's a lot more work for us, but we're ready because we have been in most of these 50 countries for more than 20, 30 years. And for those of you who are in sourcing, you know that if you want to move production from one country to another, it takes 2-3 years to find the right factories, get used to the factory on pricing, on quality. It takes a long time. So let's just say that we're very prepared for the trade war. We're working with a lot of our customers to potentially or to actually move the production overseas. But I think in general, my recommendation to my customers is be prepared, get ready, but don't panic yet. Don't do too many knee-jerk movements because you never know what the president is going to tweet tomorrow. So let's wait till Argentina and see what happens. Let's wait till the midterm and see what happens. Because if you do make a knee-jerk reaction and move to somewhere else, you may regret it. But anyways, in general, we see prices are probably going to go up. We see that if it's a 10% tariff, you can absorb that by working with different partners in the supply chain. If it's 25%, then it gets a little sticky. But then, of course, the currency is also improved by 10%. So there's a lot of forces sort of in play here. But this is what we do. And in more detail, what we do is end-to-end supply chain services. From designing a product, developing a product, finding a factory, raw material, production, quality control, logistics, all the way to delivering to the consumer for some of our businesses. And this is what we've done for the last 112 years. So we have been living in an analog world for 112 years. And now as we try to create what we call the supply chain of the future, we are trying to actually digitize it. So when I look at this circle, you see the consumers on the left-hand side corner. What we see is that consumers around the world is actually becoming almost fully digital. If you go to a country like China, a consumer from the moment he or she wakes up to everything that he or she does throughout the day, it's all digital. It's all on the cell phone, right? All on the mobile phone. I was actually I actually took a trip to a consumer's home 2 weeks ago in Hangzhou, just kind of interviewing, a lady, a 30-some-year-old lady, on how she does everything throughout the day. And in the beginning of the interview, she ordered some vegetables from Hema, which is the Alibaba supermarket. And during the conversation, 25 minutes later, it arrives to the door. Right? This is what's happening to consumers all over the world. It's all digitized. But the rest of the circle is actually still catching up. So the retailers are going through a major analog to digital conversion, but the rest of the supply chain, unfortunately, is still very analog. So basically, we see an opportunity for somebody, including ourselves and maybe a lot of other industry players, to actually go into the journey to upgrade and digitize and modernize the supply chain. And that's what we're trying to do. So our goal for our sort of planning period, which is 2017 to 2019, is to create the supply chain of the future and to help our customers navigate the very disruptive digital economy and at the same time improve the lives of 1 billion people. Frankly, when we came up with this plan, we had no idea what the supply chain of the future was. We just know that where we were, this is back in 2016, was not the future. Right? Yesterday, somebody mentioned about Wayne Gretzky skating to where the puck is going to be. We know this much, that the puck is not going to be where we're sitting. We know the puck is somewhere else, but we didn't know exactly where it was. But we took the courage to say that the world is changing, is moving faster and faster. We were expecting that the world would be 10 times faster by 2019. We're expecting that the whole world, every industry will become digitized by 2019. So we said, okay, we're not where the puck is. We got to skate to where the puck is, and we got to basically take the leap of faith and reinvent the company. So this is a complete reinvention of the company. It's a scary journey because sometimes you see things you like, sometimes you see things you don't like, and most of the time you're in the unknown. And that's what we're doing now, is discovering what is the unknown. Where is the future? What does it look like? So 2 years ago, when we came up with this plan, we did not know. Now, 1.5 years into the journey, we have a much better idea, and I'll show you some of the things that we're doing. So in order to create the supply chain of the future, it's about speed, innovation, digitalization. I believe this is something that's mentioned in every single company, every single industry today. Speed is definitely number one. Speed for us is internal speed, how fast we move as a company, and also external speed, so speed for our customer. Yesterday, Michelle from Kohl's mentioned speed is one of the major topics of what they're working on. And we've been working with Kohl's as a supply chain partner for 20 years, and most of our customers are talking about speed. I would say 95% of our customers are talking about speed. Innovation is about innovating products and innovating in business models because there are lots of disruption and new business models that will disrupt any one of us here. Digitalization is something that we think will happen, no matter whether we like it or not. Everything will have a digital component to it. Maybe it will not be fully digital. Maybe it will be some kind of omni solution where you have analog and digital, but it will happen. So these are the three themes. So let me show you a couple of examples. What we saw back in the end of 2016 is that if I take an average of all my customers, they're about a 40-week long supply chain. So from designing, from concept to store is about 40 weeks. So this is one example where we were able to reduce the time and increase the speed 3 times, from 40 weeks to 13 weeks, using a mixture of strategies. Some of them are actually analog strategies, and some of them are digital strategies. So if you look at the bottom right, bottom left, managing materials, platforming fabric, empowering vendors, aligning roles up and down the supply chain. These are the tools that we use in an analog world to speed up the supply chain. And I'll show you in a couple of slides later how we're using 3D virtual design to speed up even more the supply chain. So the result of this experiment was 3 times the increase of speed. The sales was up double digit, inventory down double digit, and markdown was down double digit. This is something that Zara and Inditex have been doing for decades. And I think the rest of the industry is now waking up to the fact that the Zara model is actually not a bad model, but it's not easy to do. Everyone knows the Zara model, but it's not easy to do. So our goal on average is to get the 40 weeks down to 20 weeks, but selective examples are actually even more than that. We're actually looking now at companies that are able to go from design to consumer, not even store, in maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Right? This is how fast the world is actually getting. So this is actually some of our later aspirations in the future. How do we get it down to a low number of weeks from design to consumer? Right? Not design to store, so it's design to consumer. There's a big topic that we talk about in our company, which is called cost versus speed optimization. If I look at the last 40 years of what I do in our industry, which is a supply chain, it's all about cost. Right? Every year you try to find a cheaper country to produce. Every year is 5% cheaper. For the last 40 years, every year when our buyers, when our customers come to town, it's all about where's the next cheaper country? Where is my discount of 5%? That went on for about 40 years. Started about a year and a half ago, the conversation started shifting to speed. Now, cost is still very important. It's a close second priority, I would say, but speed, I think, has overtaken cost as the number one priority. So if you don't have speed, doesn't matter how cheaply you get your product, you're not going to sell it. You're going to mark it down. If you get your product 10 cents cheaper and suffer a $10 markdown, everything is gone out the window. So speed, I think, is something that is dominating what we do today. And so everything that we do is geared towards speeding up, whether it's internal, whether it's external. So internally, I'll tell you a couple of examples of what we're working on as speed. So we need a lot of digital tools to augment what we do in our space. So it used to take us 18 months to develop a software module. Then it went to 12 months. Then it went down to 6 months. And if you talk about the prototyping of these software modules, it used to take high number of months. Now probably it still take 2-3 months to prototype. But in our sort of new sort of aspiration, even that is too long. So we're now trying, we're not there yet, to actually develop prototypes within an hour. Right? How do you actually think about a new software module and start prototyping it within the hour? Right? So these are the speed that we're working on in terms of internal speed. On top of all this external speed, but it's all about speed optimization. The second thing I want to talk about is innovation and digitalization.
And we at Li & Fung are continuously finding innovative ways to adapt to the shifting business landscape. Speed is our top priority. The Li & Fung Digital Center of Excellence is an innovative platform that digitizes the supply chain from raw materials to production. and product development is a core part of our solution. Design approvals, which traditionally take weeks, can now happen within days. Fitting stages can be completed in a matter of hours. The key to speed is our collaboration engine, which connects customers, the supply chain and consumers through a cloud-based platform. With detailed product imaging, designers can easily work on images that highlight fabric, finish, value add, and washes in intricate detail. Our rendering center has world-class equipment and skill sets. The result is a dynamic product development platform with fewer physical samples, faster iterations, and quicker decision-making. We are technology agnostic and offer expertise in different software. We leverage best practices to provide turnkey solutions that can be incorporated into existing merchandising workflows or be used as standalone services. Technology and innovation are changing the way we work at Li & Fung. We, in turn, are transforming the supply chain and creating new standards in how technology, processes, and people work together. We are Li & Fung. We are the supply chain of the future.
So last year, as we embarked on creating the supply chain of the future, we started focusing on one area, which is the 3D virtual design. The next couple of slides that I'm going to show you are actually all made-up products from the computer, right? It's all by a mouse click, keyboard, and a screen. They're not real products. And you can see that the quality is actually getting better and better and photorealistic, where the human eyes are basically not able to tell the difference between what's real and what's not. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these things. So we work on hardware, we work on apparel, and everything is based on software. We use a combination of about almost 30 softwares to actually to produce our 3D images. And many customers and many suppliers are now using these 3D images as in replacement of photo samples, salesman samples, and so on. And if it's done right, actually some of these 3D assets can be used directly in production. So in apparel, for example, if you do the 3D sample correctly, you can actually email it to the supplier. They can deconstruct it with the software into 2D patterns and start production immediately. So these are the things that we're starting to do. About a year and a half ago, when we started really paying attention to this area, we thought we were just going to save some sampling costs, right? That was the first step of this 3D journey. Can we save some sampling costs? Then we figured actually there were more and more applications to 3D in terms of time, in terms of downstream applications of 3D. You can use it for apparel, you can use it for production, like I just said. You can use it for fitting. You can do automated fitting now using a software. You can use it downstream for marketing, for your website. You can use it later. I'll show you how you can use it for to put it in a mock-up 3D store. You can use it for visual merchandising. You can use it for fashion shows. And all of this has increased, not just the fact that you can use this asset all the way through the journey. You can also save a lot of time. In prototyping, you can save up to 3 months for product development. If you talk about some of the examples I'll show you later in the store environment, you can actually see exactly what your store is going to look like with every single piece of merchandise and also the number of pieces that you're going to show per rack 6 to 8 months before you actually put the stuff into the store. And the same thing with a catwalk. You can actually have virtual catwalks and sell to your VIP customers, right? In the first 3-4 weeks of development, they can actually see something in advance of what's coming. So you can see that the detail and the photorealism is very, very high, and it keeps improving over and over again. So we're now starting also to superimpose our 3D images onto real-life models, enabling designers to make quicker decisions, because once they see a human on there, actually that allows them to make quicker decisions. And in the future, actually, all this can be digital as well. Even the person can be digital, as you can see from the Hollywood CGI industry, right? A lot of the movies that you see, the characters are not real. It's all digitally made up, so we can do the same thing as well. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to skip through these things. I knew I was going to run out of time. So you see, this whole store is all digital. None of this is real. And I'll show you very quickly a catwalk. You see the fabric actually moves. All the fabric properties being scanned into the 3D software. And you can do all of this actually in the first week or even the first day of developing a new product. So within 24 hours of coming up a new product, we can put it on a catwalk for different departments inside your company to see it. Okay, one more and I'm going to skip ahead. Look at the details in the bag, on the bag. Yeah, but you get the idea. So all this can be done in the first few weeks of development, right? You don't have to wait anymore for the salesman sample or further down to actually do this. So here's an example where we've saved 45% of time in the prototyping and 15% less salesman sample by using 3D. Here's another example of digitization where we actually putting our sustainability effort to use digitization to reach many more people with our efforts, right? So our goal is to help out 1 billion people eventually. And for that, you need to use a digital tool. Sorry, I need just a few more minutes. So all in all, if we're successful, we're going to create an ecosystem that is connected both in the analog world and the digital world. We already have an ecosystem now that reaches more than $2 trillion of retail sales. And the GMV is about 100 billion. So in the analog world, we've been there for 112 years, but now we're layering on a digital overlay onto this analog world as an omni-channel solution, if you will. So we're focusing on areas like 3D, automation, blockchain, and supply chain solutions. One example is a company called Software Automation, which actually they have successfully invented a fully automated garment production. And this will be actually domestic, using domestic material. So Trump would be happy. There will be no tariffs. And it'll be produced piece by piece. Right? These are the things that we're doing to enhance our supply chain. And if we're successful in stringing all this supply chain together, very soon, I gave an example a couple months ago, but I'll repeat that. You'll be able to look at Instagram, see what's trending. If you see Taylor Swift wearing a little red dress that just had 500,000 likes, you can actually start producing a 3D sample right away within an hour or two. You can put it on your website and start selling it. And by looking at the data of how many pieces are selling in the first few hours, you can predict what's going to be sold within a week or two. Then you go to the system, the digitized system, and see how many factories that are approved in your system. Let's say there are 12 factories, and who has capacity? Who can start production tomorrow? Who's got available fabric that can actually produce that dress? And you can place order right away. They can start making it as you are still taking orders on the website for future customers. And then by a week or two, all that will be done. It will either be shipped to your DC or directly to the consumer one piece by one piece. And that's what's going to be possible when we create the supply chain of the future. But there are companies actually who are already doing this. Some startups that we see are already doing something like this. So anyways, to wrap up, again, if you forget everything that I said just now in the last 20 minutes, please remember this slide. And think about where you're at. Am I a turtle? Right? Am I a rabbit? Where am I? Who are the other turtles in my industry? Who are the other rabbits? Who's going to eat my lunch tomorrow? Am I fast enough? Am I quick enough? Am I innovative enough? Have I figured out the future? Right? And where the competitive landscape is. And I think everyone has to sort of put themselves into this lens because people who will disrupt a company are usually the people you cannot see. Right? It could be a little startup called Alibaba that you dismiss, and it becomes a giant. It could be a little startup called Amazon that you dismiss, and it becomes a giant. So these are the things that kind of worries us as we try to paint the future and reinvent the whole company. Thank you. So I think we have a couple minutes for Q&A.
Question in the back.
Hi. What kind of startups are you seeing in automation or blockchain or any of these kind of disruptors that you'd like to share?
We're now scanning, we started scanning the startup world about 2 years ago. We now have about 1,000 startups, companies, not just startups, big and small companies in our database that we're scanning. So blockchain, we see a lot of companies trying many things, but we haven't seen a full-scale application yet. So we're actually experimenting with a few startups and bigger companies to do that. But I don't think any company has figured it out yet, but everybody is actually testing. Automation, that was one of them. Software automation, we're looking at a couple others too. There's some in the US, a lot of them are actually in Asia, closer to the production. But there is no winner yet. So we're still sort of filtering, going through that filtering process from hundreds of companies down to low dozens of companies, and then pressing the button to work with some of these companies.
As you're working on speed optimization, how much does sustainability fit into all the equation?
The speed optimization doesn't affect sustainability. For us, sustainability starts before you even produce. So when we go to a factory, it has to be fully compliant and sustainable before we can even start production. So speed doesn't really affect it. But in terms of sustainability, what I see is, I think the whole world will become fully transparent one day. I think in the consumer world, everything is already transparent. It started really with eBay, people rating each other. Then with social media, like everything is transparent in the consumer world. If you look at an Uber driver, because of the transparency, they're always incentivized to do the right things. I think the same thing will happen upstream in the supply chain. So all the factories that we work with, that we buy from, they're not 100% black and white. Right? That's why we need compliance standards. That's why we need to audit them. But I think one day everybody can use, let's say, our worker app to, let's say, report things that are not working, and everything will become fully transparent. You cannot hide anymore. So we believe that world is actually, not too far away.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we have.
Thank you.